Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 3 of the Dutchmen Discussions. I'm Mike Freeman, Director of Athletic Communications, and today's guest is LVC's Esports Director of Operations, Dave Shapiro. We'll be discussing the team's amazing season last year, their mini restart back in May, how the team has been connecting with each other recently. We'll also talk about recruiting and Coach Shapiro's hopes for next season. So we hope you enjoy Head Esports Coach Dave Shapiro. We are now joined by LVC Esports Director of Operations, Dave Shapiro. Dave, welcome. Thanks for coming on. Really appreciate it.
Absolutely.
How have you been doing? How's everything been going with you these past few months?
Good. I'm busy and a little crazy and chaotic at times, but good. Overall, we're doing well.
Good. Glad to hear it. So, for you and the team, how has everything changed since mid-March? You guys put together an incredible season that I don't think many people know about. So can you just kind of walk us through, what happened last year and how you guys have been coping with everything?
Sure. Yeah, we were on a really good run. We had a great fall. Winter was going well, and spring was looking awesome for us. And then definitely when COVID started up, and we were getting word that we were going to have to stop some of our competitions, and then obviously knowing that we were going to go home, that really broke up what we had going on, unfortunately. And I think in many ways, athletes are creatures of habits. They like their routine. They want to do the same thing every day and really grind on whatever sport it is. And so to have that break really kind of got into their heads a little bit at first. And it took a little bit of time to get everyone regrouped and say, hey, look, we're going to find those competitions. As soon as we can compete again, we're going to hit them. We're going to go after them as hard as we can. And I think in the end, it worked out well for us, but it took a little bit of time from about March 15th, I'd say, to almost about April 15th before that team really started to feel like, okay, we got something to look forward to and we're going to be able to compete again.
Yeah, it's funny. And then so esports, they're not NCAA, which is different for a lot of people, but it's pretty interesting to me because, I'm writing these bios and everything, and it says, "Oh, I won $200 at this tournament, blah blah." And I think in my head for a second, I'm like, "Wait a second!" But then it's like, it's okay. They're not not an NCAA sport. So, were any of your players competing since mid-March?
We had a few who were able to compete for a little bit. Every game, every function, so to speak, got broken up at some point. So we had some players who were competing from mid-March through April. We had others who stopped almost immediately before mid-March, like around March 10th, they had to stop and didn't pick up again until May. We had others that were paused all the way until July. And so it was really just different across the board. And part of the issue for esports was, you don't want to do tournaments in person. So that was a big issue. So what happens when you run all of these tournaments online and then the playoffs and the finals are supposed to always be in person, and you can't do that. So that was something that was different for us and trying to figure out how to get through some of that. And I think a lot of the leagues just couldn't figure it out. To be honest, they just were struggling. And the other thing was an equity issue. So our players play on the best gear, with the best internet, in the best location. I mean, everything is suited for them to play at the highest level. And then here you go, you're going home. And so the players don't all have the same gear, the same internet, the same level of console and controllers, depending on the game. And so now how do you play effectively against another team where the equity just isn't there anymore? And that really changed things for a lot of the organizations. Said, hey, time out. Until we know that we can do this well, we should just not do this at all. And that really broke things up. So it was an interesting little run there. So we had players who were playing, and we had other ones who just had to stop and just sit and wait. And so it was definitely different for us.
You bring up a really good point that I didn't think of, that I don't think a lot of people think of as, oh, well, they'll just go home and play. And it's really, it's not that easy. And, it's interesting that, that you bring that up, just because it's definitely not a problem that other athletes run into. But, in in about, I think it was early May, you kind of picked back up with some COD tournaments. Can you just
Mhm.
talk about those for a little bit?
Yeah, so we were seeded already going into the national playoffs for Call of Duty, for COD, as you said. And we were all prepared to play, and then it got paused. And so in May, we were able to pick back up again. And, playing some of the top universities right away was a little interesting, to say the least. Crimson Tide comes up #1 for us. We beat them. Awesome. Cool. And then the second game is just like some other monster university. And that's not being able to play for a little bit, and that's who you get to play first is a little interesting. And esports itself is interesting in that, as we don't typically play the typical LVC rivals. We're not playing the Albrights. We play them once in a while, but we don't play them regularly. They're not a rival of ours for esports. And so, when you get those big games, you usually want to get together and practice and work hard and have all those coaching moments and get a few scrims at least, if not other games ahead of that. And just, we didn't have that opportunity, unfortunately. But we came out okay. So, it worked out well. Getting deep into the playoffs national playoffs is great for us. This is a team that is essentially coming back full next year, which is great. And we're adding some really good players to that team. So we're looking forward to next year now, based on what we were able to do in May, and knowing that we have a team that can compete at the highest levels, which is great.
It must be interesting to see get that first round draw and it says Alabama. It's like, oh, geez,
Yeah, Alabama's a pretty good school.
Yeah.
You see them on any athletic competition, you go, okay. That's a tough first round draw to get placed into. But we were able to take them out, and we surprised a lot of people by taking them out. We took a few other schools out on the way, and that was good for us. And getting deep into the playoffs, our goal this year was really to get deep into all the national playoffs. If we could get deep into the national playoffs, be a contender in some of those national playoffs, we felt like we had done what we needed to do to really set ourselves up for next year and the year after. And this has been a long-term plan for ours, is to, last year was to get into the playoffs. This year was to get deep into the playoffs, and we're just building on that now.
It's pretty amazing. We haven't had esports for that long, and you're already talking about getting deep into the playoffs. So I think it speaks to you. It speaks to, the players you're recruiting, on how you've been able to, we just got this team a few years ago, and we're already beating some of the top teams in the entire country. And, we were the first college or university in Pennsylvania to get esports. And now, it's funny, I get all these, back in the winter, I was getting all these emails and texts from other directors of athletic communications around the area asking questions. Oh, what do you do for this? What do you do for this? And it's pretty interesting how, we were the ones that kind of made the move first, not a brag, but we just kind of started it.
We can brag. It's all right. We can brag.
Yeah. So and now here we are. Like we're talking to each other about trying to make the playoffs, and we had, Rocket League was incredible last year, and all these other sports, and it's amazing how it can happen within a few years. Now we're already talking about it.
Yeah, we had a great run this year. We took out the #1 team in CSGO this year for the nation. They ended up going and winning it all. But early in the season, we were able to beat them. So we were able to play some really top teams and win with really what I would say is a team. Our teams overall are still building and developing. We have some really great frontline players. Our depth is probably the largest issue for us right now. And this recruiting class coming in is going to add to our depth, plus a few really high-end starters, which is awesome. But we were able to push pretty hard this year and get those wins. And that's just a testament to, the LVC culture definitely helps with that. Our students are just incredible. And then our coaching staff, front to back, has just been really working hard on these students and with them to develop and build to the point where they feel comfortable going into any match. They feel like they have a shot. Even against those top schools, they feel like they have a shot to compete. And that makes all the difference in the world, because then at least you give yourself a chance to win.
You're right. I think that fearless component that it seems like they just kind of go in like, we're just playing some old team again. And like, don't look at their name. Don't worry about who their mascot is, just go in and play the game, and, good stuff will happen.
Yeah, exactly. I think we get fired up, and a lot of times, especially when the national spotlight is on us, so that Crimson Tide match, all the national media for Call of Duty was watching us to say, these guys, they're the underdog. They're not going to win. And honestly, we weren't the underdog. We were a better team going into that. And those who really follow it knew that. But, everyone sees that school. Like when we play Northeastern for Hearthstone, everyone sees that school and says, oh, you're not going to beat them. And yet we do. And we're better. And so we know that. And I think that we're starting to develop into a team where people around the nation start to know LVC's coming, and they know us now, which is great. And in some ways, it's kind of nice playing that underdog because they don't know who you are, and you can take them by surprise. We've gone through that now. Everyone knows us, so it's okay. We're just going to keep on building on it, and next year is going to be a great year for us.
That's good. So has recruiting changed at all for you guys ever since COVID-19 hit?
Yeah, one of the things that we do so well at is bringing students to the campus, showing off our campus. Our campus is just amazingly beautiful, as you know, and I think everyone falls in love once they take a step on our campus. That stopping really hurt, I think, in many ways, not being able to bring those students to our campus to see it. And then bringing them into the esports arena. Our esports arena is incredible. We are very fortunate, not only to have our first arena, but to then build out the second arena that we did last year. And that second arena is just a world-class arena for our students. And to have those two spaces and to have our students be able to see that, prospective students see that, really shows what LVC is. It's more than just the videos and the emails that we put out there. It really, you walk in, you sit in that chair, you sit down in front of that gear, you take a look at what's around you and you go, I want to play here. This is where I want to be. And not being able to do that really changed how we approached those recruits. Fortunately, I think we had a lot of good relationships already. So, our recruiting goal was 15. We're over 20. We're where we need to be. And the level of competitors we're bringing in, those athletes that we're bringing in are absolutely incredible. So we're fortunate that we had those relationships already built. Next year is going to be I think somewhat the harder one to build on because we're used to being able to bring those students in and show off the room. And so we're going to have to find some different ways to do that. I'm confident that we can do it, and I think we're going to make a lot of noise this year, so it's going to help us, but it's definitely different in recruiting right now.
It's a funny comparison because last week we interviewed Don Parsons, the head ice hockey coach, and he's, he can't bring anybody to historic Hershey Park Arena as you can't bring anybody to the esports lab. So it's funny how the sports are so different, but recruiting can be pretty much the same sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, these places like our basketball arena, the baseball stadium, we have these absolute iconic locations for a D3 school, and to be a private liberal arts in Pennsylvania, to have the facilities that we have are absolutely incredible. But not to be able to bring those students to show them really does take away from that, unfortunately, because then you're trying to compare against other schools like us, and we don't compare against a lot of the other schools like us. We simply have better facilities, which is great for us. But you want to bring that student into those facilities and show them that historic arena in Hershey. It's just to get to play in that is absolutely amazing, and not being able to show it to a student really hurts.
Yeah, I think pictures don't do it justice for.
Nah, you got to walk in there and see it. You got to feel it. It's that feeling that you get when you walk into a place like that, knowing the history of that place, that location. And I think for us, for the arena, you can show pictures of it and it looks really cool. You walk in there and you feel the vibe of all the other students playing and talking and strategizing and all the other stuff. We've had, I have a junior from this past year who's a rising senior at a high school. He walked in the door, looked at his mom, said, I'm going here. That's what you want, right? and not to be able to do that it does take away a little bit from what we're trying to accomplish.
Yeah, it's an excellent point. Okay, so last question. You kind of mentioned it here and there, but moving forward to next year, what are you expecting out of the incoming first year class, and then your returners as well?
So we already sent them their jerseys and their hoodies. They're geared up and ready to go. We're actually going to start launching a campaign on Twitter here shortly, showcasing all of our recruits and having their gear on and showing who they are, what they play, their main games. I think for us, it's really building on what we did last year. We only lost, I think, one senior who was a starter A few of the other seniors that we had were some high-level players for Smash for us, but we have a great group coming in behind them, which is awesome. And all of our other games, the seniors that we had are all coming back, which is awesome. So we lost one senior from Rocket League, who's on our team too. But all of our other seniors who are starters on our other games are coming back next year for either graduate degrees or a second degree. They have eligibility, so they want to come back and play. I think a few of them are baseball players as well, so they're just looking at, they need to come back. They want to be there and play those seasons out. And so that's a huge benefit for us to have that upper level student coming back with the freshmen that we're bringing in. We're bringing in over 20 recruits, and that mix is going to be interesting next year. We're going to have a very large team, but at the end of the day, we're going to have some great new starters and a lot more depth than we've had ever in our history. And so I think what we're going to see is a lot of our team ones do extremely well like they did this year, and hopefully push even further into those playoffs, a few Final Fours and hopefully some finals for some of our teams. I think what we're going to see, though, some of our second teams are actually going to be very competitive as well. And in esports, we can have a second team go into the playoffs pretty far. We've had that once before with our Hearthstone team, where our second team actually outperformed our first team 2 years ago. And I think you're going to see that with some of our other teams, not outperforming, but getting far into the playoffs as well, and being able to be respected at a high level for even being a second team. So we're starting to build what we need for the next 2, 3, 4 years this year. And you can see that in our recruits. It's a very, very good class.
That's great. It sounds like it's going to be a great year, and I'm sure, all the student athletes are chomping at the bit just to get back and just to be playing. And, if there's they ever bring back, N64, Tony Hawk Pro Skater, Mario Kart GoldenEye, I'm your man. So just
All right.
Well, Dave, hey, thank you very much for coming on. We appreciate it. Hope you enjoy the rest of your vacation, and I hope to see you in person soon.
Thanks, Mike.
All right, Dave, see you. We would like to thank Dave Shapiro for joining us on the 3rd episode of the Dutchmen Discussions. We have a jam-packed week, so be on the lookout for more episodes later this week. Thank you all for tuning in, and go Dutchmen.